Can you explain to me what exactly is a brain tumour?
Yes, well, we all know where the brain is, and it's in the brain sits in the skull, and we often refer to intracranial tumors as a group, and part of those will be in the brain. Now, a tumor, we have to go to the definition of tumor. It is an abnormal growth of cells which is always to the disadvantage of the individual. So it it never has a useful function. It's always to the disadvantage of the individual. So if one imagines any sort of growing organism, which always is to the disadvantage of the individual, and there may be cases where one can live together with this organism and balance it, but that is a brain tumor, something growing within the brain usually, but not necessarily, maybe on the brain, in the brain, surrounding the tissues that surround the brain, but it's always to the detriment of the individual. And that's for all malignant tumours.
Why is it to the detriment? I mean, what does it do that's detrimental?
It's detrimental because if it continues to grow locally, it's going to push other structures aside. And can you imagine? You've got a structure in a closed box. I've referred to the word cranium, but you've all seen in movies skulls. So here you've got this brain and this skull, which is bone. This tumour's growing. So what's going to happen? The pressure in the box is going to go up, and that is going to be really a problem. And that's one thing it will do. So it's going to increase, which we term intracranial pressure. But in fact, it's going to do another thing. In brain tumours, it grows, and it grows like a crab with tentacles into the rest of the brain. And the brain has many functions, which we can talk about if you like, sir. But so it's going to take its space. So often we talk about space occupying lesion. It's taking the space in this closed box, but it's also growing like tentacles in the brain and out the brain. And this is a particular difficulty for treating these tumours.
When the tumour starts spreading into other parts of the brain, does it interfere with brain function?
Yes. Where the brain functions, different parts of the brain obviously have different functions. I mean, we all have seen these movies where they're doing through the eye with a sharp instrument and trying to alter the personality that's in the frontal lobe of the brain. But all the parts of the brain have different functions. And so when it's invading these different areas, it will affect that function, which that part of the brain is responsible for. And in doing so, it will cause a different symptom. So it leads on to a manifestation of different symptoms, how it's spreading, where these tentacles are going. So one can see the complexity. So if it's spreading downwards, upwards, sideways into the brain, it will in fact affect the function of that part of the brain, which in fact the end point will be a different symptom or a different behavior.
And is a brain tumour invariably fatal?
No, it's not invariably fatal. There, about half the brain tumours are in fact treatable and may be curable, but it nevertheless is an incredibly lethal disease if it is the top end of rapid cell growth, which people now use the term cancer malignant. And if it's in this group of tumours, it is nearly always fatal. Nearly always fatal. There's always a chance, and one has to be positive about everything. There's no inevitability that it's going to be fatal, but if it is highly cancerous, then it is very, very likely to be fatal within at least 1.5 to 5 years of the onset of symptoms.
What causes this tumour to develop in the first place?
We do not know. It's no, in spite of study after study after study after study, and all of us are bombarded with paper articles, newspaper articles. We know that the cause is eating McDonald's, or we know that it's Pepsi Cola. And of course, they're right when it comes to cigarette smoking in relation to lung cancer in many cases. But with brain tumours, it is and remains a mystery. We have lots of ideas, lots of research, but I'll give you an example which perhaps simplifies it, that we thought perhaps the mobile, with the increase in numbers of tumours in the brain, we thought it's the mobile phone, because why would there be an increase when you have something new and most people are buying mobile phones? But most people hold their mobile phone to the right ear, but we do not get more tumours on the right side of the brain. So it doesn't seem to fit. Nevertheless, we do know probably there's one cause, but it must be a very small cause of brain tumours, and that's radiation, because radiation causes malignancy no matter which malignancy. So it is very likely, and it is probably now beyond doubt, that radiation is a cause of brain tumours. But there are many, many things postulated, and we will need a whole chat about that and how we've reviewed it. But we do not know the definitive cause of these tumours, except with radiation. Thank you for listening. I hope you found this interesting, and if you did, please subscribe.